so big that they'll haunt you, or they'll calm you. That's how you know if you gotta go and get to win and not conquer. I had to go out and get it without a sponsor. Kept it real, never crooked, yeah, that's honor. Now I can go out and get it how I want to. Hashtag bless, I choose.
Good morning, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. Welcome back to the Ryan Matta Show. We are going to get right into it today, folks. Our guest needs no introduction. He's been here before. SINA, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Ryan. Well, thank you very much. Great to be back. Last time I had a great chat, so looking forward to another one today.
Man, honored to have you back on the show. So in case anybody didn't get to watch the first video, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive right into the interview. Where can everybody find you at?
So I'm on Twitter mostly. You can find me at SINA_21st. So that's going to be SINA_21ST. I'm a professor of business and a Bitcoiner, and essentially I do a lot of analyses on Bitcoin, the market, the data, and also working at 21st Capital, which is a consulting firm. What we offer is help for individuals to get on board. If you have any interest in learning about custody, learning about anything in Bitcoin, recovering funds, any issues, you can contact us for a free session. So that's what I do there. And if you follow my feed, it's mostly in the past couple of months a lot of analysis on the ETFs, but also the broader market and how we are expecting Bitcoin to move or change. That's kind of stuff I'm focused on. And also there is this background of Bitcoin as the freedom technology. So that probably ties well with your audience as well. But yeah, that's our focus, and I look forward to talking about any aspect of it today.
So let's dive into like your thesis last time you were on the show versus where you thought Bitcoin was going versus kind of like what you're seeing in the market now. Are we seeing slowdowns from the ETF inflows? Like kind of what was your thesis last time, if you had to say, and versus what is your thesis now?
When the ETFs launch, when they launched, we were mostly expecting them to show a huge explosion of flows in the first few days, and then maybe within 3 weeks subside and turn into a very slow positive flow. A lot of that has changed now. First of all, in the first few weeks, instead of getting a massive flow, we actually got a couple days of negative. And then all the GBTC bankruptcy court decision caused a lot of outflow. So that kind of hid the inflow a lot. But then the explosion began. All the way from late January to mid-March, exactly 12th of March, we got unbelievable numbers. So it actually performed significantly better than we were expecting. The big inflows happened month after month. But then suddenly we got another explosion in the other way. So in mid-March, we had the best week ever. I actually have the numbers here. We had 2.5 billion in net flow, which is massive for 1 week. So that became our best week. Then the week after that, we got our worst week with about 900 million outflow. So a second round of GBTC selling began, and then since then the market has been up and down, and essentially it has stayed flat. So I would say the idea that Bitcoin ETFs will be massively successful at launch, that panned out with a slightly different timing. The idea that it will quickly subside, the ETFs performed better. But another thing that we focus is that we see is in the past month or maybe 6 weeks, we've had, I actually have again the numbers here. We've had 4 weeks of outflow since April 7th, and then 1 week of really good inflow, and this week has also began to be positive. So looks like after some negative trend, we are beginning a new trend, and I still expect moving forward for us to have ups and downs, but generally positive inflow as more and more institutions do their research, do their due diligence, and get approval for investing in Bitcoin. You know, investing in Bitcoin is a crazy thing for a traditional finance institution. I still can't believe that all these big institutions are now involved. We were talking about this remote possibility and getting ridiculed for it 4 years ago. Now it's a reality, right? I still can't believe it, but it's a huge leap for these institutions, and it's definitely going to take time. It actually does help that we have corrected that huge spike up to above 70,000. A lot of people felt behind. So in that case, if you were a good investor, you would kind of slow down. You wouldn't jump in because of FOMO. So you would take a step back and you do your analysis more. And us, with all these outflows, you know, holding 60K range is pretty good. It's amazing. We're just taking a pause here. It might take a month or two, and then we're just refueling.
And what are you looking for as far as like, what do you think is going to be that next catalyst that kind of starts bringing more money? Is it going to be what's going on with BRICS? I know that there's a lot of stuff going on with BRICS right now. Do you think that that's going to have an impact on Bitcoin adoption over the next couple of weeks?
Probably not that fast, but it will definitely have an effect. Listen, we are, you know, after maybe before World War I, we were solidly on a common currency in the world, common money, which was gold. Little by little after that, partly because governments wanted freedom in accessing citizens' money, did not want the limitation that a gold backing would place on them because of all
Sina,
these.
Question.
Yeah, yes.
Do you have a noise reduction on your mic by chance?
Noise reduction.
It seems like it's gating you just a little bit when you kind of get quiet there for a second. It like almost makes it sound like you're trying you're a background noise that it's trying to muffle out. I didn't know if there was anything on. It's no big deal. I was just hearing it. I figured I'd say something in the beginning if it was a switch or a setting there.
No, I don't think so. But
okay. Don't even worry about it. It's no big deal at all. Just a little thing. So don't even worry about it.
Yeah. So, but if anything helps, let me know. If like distance or something, and I can tweak with some of these things here. But I haven't said anything.
Maybe is there a way for you to adjust the volume? Are you allowed to turn up the? Are you able to turn up the volume at all? Just to like maybe 10 or 20%.
Turn up. How's that now?
A little bit more.
How's this now? Better?
You know, it might be the headphones. I think it might have been better. You want to take out the headphones and go back to the way you had it before? I think that might be what's happening.
Yes, that's probably the headphone has taken over and doesn't let my mic to do the work. So, and I don't see an easy way to change that on Wirecast. On Zoom, it's very easy. You can change your microphone source, but here
Let me pull up my Rendezvous dashboard. I should be able to walk you through it. Give me 1 second. Okay, in the Rendezvous dashboard where you're actually like looking at our picture, at the very top or bottom of your corner of your screen, there should be like a little settings kind of icon in the bottom right corner of your actual image where you're seeing like where you're looking at me, but there should be two versions. There should be your version and then there should be both of us next to each other.
Yes.
In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there should be a settings icon.
I see it, but the settings are not so helpful.
No settings there. Okay.
So let me take off the headphone and you tell me
how
that sounds.
And then did you turn off your Bluetooth?
Okay. So.
Oh, way better. Instantly better. Yes, perfect.
Oh, sorry about that. Hopefully you don't hear too much of.
I was the one who told you to put the headphones on in the beginning. I should have just shut my mouth.
Yeah, that's my second one. The first one is somewhere else. I can't get it right now, but this one is not great. So I knew about it. I was worried about it. So good that we got rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we get back into it.
Yeah, let's dive right into what we were talking about with the BRICS.
Yeah, so essentially, where I was going with that is they build a fiat system where we're just creating paper money that's not linked to anything, that gives full control to the government, but that puts us in a horrible situation, which every country has this unlinked currency that they made up, right? Now there's no common thing, right? Previously we had gold. Now there's no common currency. So if a Swiss country wants to trade with a Malaysian country, Malaysia would not accept the Swiss currency. Switzerland would not accept Malaysian, right? So they need something common, and they gravitated toward the dollar. So helped with the military power, the political influence, and some of it is the natural economic forces, because everyone needs a common thing. We can't barter all these currencies against each other, which is a crazy idea, right? So we were forced to choose the dollar, but that's still not ideal because it's under one country's control, and that's making a lot of these BRICS countries unhappy. Some of them feel like they could be banned from the system as soon as they have trouble with the United States. Other ones have trouble with not being able to manage the monetary policy. When US prints money and distributes it to us, no one else in the world gets it, right? People in El Salvador, for example, that are using the dollar, they get none of it. They only get the inflation from it. So there is discontent. There is this core at the core of the US dollar network that is happy with it. They love it. It's a lot of power and control, but there is this periphery that doesn't like it. What I'm thinking is the best solution for these countries is not gold. Gold had issues, and those issues caused partly the transition to fiat. It's very difficult to settle transactions in gold. You probably have to send airplanes with gold on it, and then worry about theft and the costs. What else can we do? What if we do the Chinese currency, the renminbi, right? But then that puts you in the same problem, only worse. That puts you in the same hole, only worse and deeper. If you don't want to depend on the United States, you also don't want to depend on the Chinese state. So what else can we do? Maybe they can choose oil as the common currency or something like that, which is a horrible choice. Oil doesn't have the monetary properties that are needed for a global reserve currency. Its supply is very volatile. Not going to work. There is only one choice. A commodity that is purely designed for monetary purposes. It's not controlled by anyone. And its supply doesn't change. So what you purchase today is not going to change. Nobody else is going to be affecting its monetary policy. Nobody else will be able to ban you from it. So Bitcoin has all the necessary properties to act as the global reserve currency for these countries that are not excited about using the US dollar. But it hasn't happened yet, because the asset is very, very young. It just can't handle the volume and the amount of money that these countries need to transact, right? So as Bitcoin grows, as maybe one or two more smaller countries get on board, and you see more volume, more liquidity in the Bitcoin market, this becomes more and more of a reality. Like I said, 4 years ago, BlackRock establishing a Bitcoin ETF was a dream. was something crazy that we would just say as a possibility down the road, but it's a reality now. Same thing will happen with countries, I think.
What does that look like for the U.S. dollar if these countries start going off of the dollar standard? How do you think how long do you think it takes for? Obviously, it'd be worse if the bigger countries, but if these smaller countries all one by one are no longer accepting U.S. dollars, how long do you think it takes for the American citizens to feel the weight of all those dollars coming back to the United States?
Listen, so let's say if China and Russia, they decide to settle transactions in something else, well, that's going to have an effect on the value of the U.S. dollar. It's going to have an effect on the U.S. government's ability to sell bonds and debt as they become a smaller and a smaller part of the world currency, world economy. And that will actually make all the debt that we have accumulated, 30 plus trillion of dollars of national debt, is only sustainable because we can sell more and more bonds against it. The minute we have trouble selling those bonds, and there is doubt about U.S. hegemony and control over the world currency, the bond market might punish the government for all this debt. Right now, the assumption is the U.S. can print whatever it wants, unlimited amounts, and so the market is willing to lend them money in unlimited amounts. But once there is doubt about it, the bond rates would go up, money would be scarce, the government has to refinance at higher rates, which means they will be, if they were a household, they will be, you can say they are on the brink of bankruptcy, because then suddenly your debt payment, your interest payment is significantly more than your income. But government does not go bankrupt. Instead, they will print the damn money. So the effect of that is inflation. So somebody has to pay all this debt. Right now, it's the world plus the U.S., the poor citizens, right, that get these bonds and then they get inflated away. But if there's doubt in the bond market about the sustainability of the U.S. control, then somebody has to pay all that debt. You and I are going to pay that in terms of inflation, and we are already on that path, even without a dramatic event like an impact to the U.S. dollar power. Even without it, the politicians are already on a path towards more and more debt. And interestingly, let me tell you one secret: there's essentially no way out of this. The way system is set up, the Fed has kind of brainwashed all the economists into thinking they have control over the economy and how heated or cool it can be. Essentially, their idea or the theory is when the economy is moving too fast, faster than it should, faster than fundamentals, they will hike rates, do quantitative tightening, and then slow it down. When the economy is too slow, like after COVID, they can push a bunch of buttons and expand the money supply and drop the rates and speed up the economy, which, on at the very high level, it sounds to be working, but on the micro foundations, this is a crazy thing, because the benefits of the money supply only doesn't equally get distributed among people. It only goes to certain groups. And the damage of the rate hike also goes to certain other groups. Like, think about it right now. All the investors, all people that had access to cheap loans and financial institutions were able to lever up, get 2%, 1.5% mortgages for 30 years to buy up all the housing. Now young families who want to start a life, start a family, get a house, they have to pay double the prices. high prices and high rates for the mortgages, which has, I know a lot of people around myself that were planning to buy their first house, and they can't. They just have to put it off. So this, on its own doesn't work, but it has a second problem, which is once you accumulate all this debt, that interest on that debt begins to matter, right? Right now we are paying something like $700 billion a year just for government debt. And we are well on our path for this number to turn into 1 trillion and above. At that point, it's probably the number one expense for the government. And yeah, can you quote the latest national debt number?
Yeah, it's 34 trillion, 735 billion, 914 million. Our jet to GDP ratio is 122.26%. And then our unfunded liabilities are sitting at what looks like $215 trillion, which is $639,512 per citizen.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they think it has no effect until they will see the effects. So this is where I was going with this. If you have too much debt and you've realized that maybe, okay, you are overheating the economy because of so much inflation and all, you raise the rate, but it initially stops all the entrepreneurs from expanding, from investing, and also all these zombie companies from getting free money, which is good. But then your government has to pay extra on the 34 trillion, and that adds to the interest payment. So if you have too much debt like this, rate hike can actually backfire and cause even more stimulation of the economy. You kill the entrepreneur, but you don't get any of the slowdown effect because government still has to sell additional debt to pay back all the huge interest expense. And then the government has no income, right? So they have to sell additional debt to do that, which adds to the debt, which adds to the interest payment, which adds to the need to issue more debt. So this is a death spiral. One possible solution is to drastically cut the costs of the government, which essentially means putting yourself out of a job, and no politician would do that. So this is bad. This is very bad, and there's no easy way out of this. What they will do, this is what they'll do. When you're stuck in an impossible position, standard political strategy is to pretend that you have control, do something which has a short-term effect, and advertise the hell out of it, saying that, okay, we did what we do, our strategy is working, and then over time it will lose its effect, and we go back to the same trend, and nobody will notice. At least nobody will understand where the hell is this happening. In our national debt situation, they have hiked rates, and it has had some effect, but you can see it hasn't slowed down the stock market. Stock market is at the peak, and we still have trouble with inflation, and they're just pretending to be managing the system. But at some point, their rate hikes have not resulted in the effect they wanted, and they're all surprised. And at some point, they have to cut it. Maybe not this year, but early next year, they'll have to cut it because the jobs will go away. And inflation may have not still slowed down. And at that point, they have no choice other than cutting. Cutting will lead to more inflation. It will probably solve some of the problems with the job market. But inflation is going to stay with us. It's all the forces that are around us are pushing towards more inflation. And in that environment, it's a very destructive environment for the economy. It pushes a lot of people to do crazy things instead of productive work, instead of going out there in the morning and doing your plumbing and woodworking and teaching. Instead of that, all of us will be focusing on what's the next best stock to buy. How can I flip a used car? Um, you remember during the pandemic, you could buy a used car and sell it a few months later at a higher price. These things will happen more and more as inflation takes hold, and people just expect more and more inflation. And same thing that's happening with GameStop. GameStop, right? You following it?
I
It
I
grew
aped
by
into it.
100% yesterday. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then and pre-market it was up 120% today, and they halted trading,
I'm
which is
in.
another rabbit.
I'm
It's
in.
it's
I'm
there's
in
no
Andrew.
fundamental reason.
I'm in Andrew Tate's war room, right? I'm part of his thing. So yeah, he sent that out to all of us like 2 days ago when he was talking about doing it. And so we all aped into it. And now it's like up 500%
Oh,
since he put out his
good.
video. So
Nice, nice. So, I mean, that is moving capital away from the real economy. It's we are all in
mhm.
this together. We are all in this circus, and we unfortunately we have to play in it, because if you don't, somebody else will do. It's just a systemic problem. And over time, the only thing that can save you is having hard assets. We are not really sure about the sustainability of the housing, for example, to keep its prices going up. There might be some capital constraints, additional taxes. We just heard about the crazy taxes in Canada, capital gains taxes. But at least we have another technology now that is least susceptible to government action. So that's where I will conclude that inflation is a fact of life, and it's going to get worse, and it may get better for a little while, but it ultimately will go back up. And the best place to be is in hard assets.
What do you think the biggest barrier for entry is right now as far as getting the masses to really start to focus on what Bitcoin is, what it represents as far as protecting your wealth from this inflation wave that is coming? What do you think it is that's stopping people? Are they just so broke that they can't afford it, so they're choosing to ignore it? Or what is it, do you think, that prevents a majority of people saying, like me and you are, like, I'm completely out of the fiat world, right? Like, I don't care what happens to the dollar. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm completely on a Bitcoin standard. So what do you think stopping more and more people from coming to that realization that they have to get out of the dollar?
Listen, one part of it is too much trust in everyone else around you, including institutions, including government, including politicians. So people are trained to think what the authorities say is that must be true, right? So if you have trust in the Federal Reserve in managing our finances, our monetary policy, if you have trust in Janet Yellen in making sure your jobs are there and the economy is functioning well, maybe you don't need to think about anything. Just hold your dear dollars and they will fix it for you. What it takes for people to understand the risks of reliance on politicians is when they get hurt. For example, after you realize that your life savings have been inflated away, when inflation is out of hand and you see politicians are helpless fixing it, when you see you lost your job and there's no one else coming to save you, but there's a lot of talk about saving the big banks or other corporations, that will change the game for some people. But a lot of people are like too trusting, and it's the easiest thing. I mean, it's the least friction path to just accept what you hear. And you hear it from everywhere. You hear it from the media, you hear it from the experts, you hear it from academics, you hear it from everyone around you that this is how the system should work. When I was at school, no one talked about this concept of inflation. It was just always there in the background, something we have to accept. Like 2% inflation is just the default, right? And of course, it's never 2%, but no one even talks about the idea that this is a choice we made and it has downsides, and that part is never talked about. And that kind of bakes in your brain the idea that this is all normal. Everything we see around us, this is normal. It has always been like this since I was born. So people have a hard time moving out of their box. That's one. The second one is probably linked to the first one. People do not, it's difficult to apply critical thinking to what you see around you. It's very difficult because you have to, on belief, you have to remove a lot of your beliefs to be able to see the other side. Essentially, what the algorithm a lot of people use for making up their mind about a lot of social phenomena or economic phenomena is to listen to what other people say. If you have 5 people around you in your social network saying that it's a good time to be in the AI stocks, you will be there. I just heard from my neighbor that they thought it's the best place to be, and they probably heard it from a few other people. You'll be surprised if you hear a message from 4 different sources. It has an enormous effect on your beliefs. You may not have heard anything concrete, but as soon as you see several people say this thing is valuable, or this is the way to go, or that's the best investment, it has an impact on you. And most people go by that. They just hear and listen and they feel, right? For Bitcoin, we have all the negatives. What you hear from other people is this is magic internet money, this is fake, US dollar is real money. The stuff I've heard from people myself. And Bitcoin is just speculation. And what makes matters worse is our politicians are also saying this. Elizabeth Warren is out there telling everybody that Bitcoin is a scam. It's helping money laundering. It's boiling the oceans. It's heating the planet. It's damaging our future. It's all of that. So it's all of this is very difficult, makes it very difficult for the average guy who has a very passive interest in this thing to understand what's going on. They get 9 negative messages and probably 1 positive message from someone, from a show like yours. But this also has a silver lining. If this pattern changes, and like instead of getting 9 negative messages and 1 positive message, you begin to get 8 and 2 and 7 and 3, it quickly changes, and it quickly converts more and more people who are disenfranchised to also see the BS in that cabal that is sending you negative messages. So you essentially you downplay the message you get from there, and you put more and more weight on the positive message. And that's exactly what we are seeing. You look at the address numbers, it's growing on a power law. So it's rapidly increasing. The number of people who hold Bitcoin rapidly increasing. The price, obviously, which is the most objective metric of its success, rapidly going up. If you look at on a monthly or quarterly scale. As this happens, okay, so now BlackRock, which would be previously was sending you negative messages, Larry Fink in 2019, he said Bitcoin is the index of money laundering. He flipped. Now Bitcoin is the future of potentially the future of money, potentially something, as Larry Fink said, something you want to own if you don't trust your government. Think about it. So he's essentially spreading the message that you were not supposed to to spread. So that's one change. And this change is happening everywhere. As more and more people in Wall Street own it, now they have an incentive to promote it. As more and more politicians understand that this is what people want, fewer and fewer of them would risk their careers, except the real crazy ones. But this is all a matter of psychology. And as people will hear more and more about it, all the fear of this thing being new and uncharted territory will go away. As soon as you see your friends are in it and they're successful and they're doing well, this will change your mind.
You mentioned that they had stopped halting. They halted trading on GameStop. What is that about? Why? How do these people have powers to do things like that? And what is the logic behind them?
See, what they fear is, let's say you and I are traders and we have put on trades. Our trades have stops, right? At certain points. If I have a lot of money, I can find a stock that doesn't have a lot of liquidity. I can dump a lot of cash on it, so the price goes up and all the shorts are nuked. Then I can take my money out, and all the money that the shorts have lost will be my profit. So this is what they fear, and that's what they use to justify a big brother controlling our trades. So essentially, whenever they think it looks bad and there's too much volatility, there might be manipulation going on, so they stop it. Which is another thing that we take for granted. It's part of the system, but it's not normal. It doesn't make sense for someone to be able to block the market, but that's what happens.
Not so much a free market, is it?
Not at all, not at all. And they're fighting tooth and nail to keep the control, and not just that, to expand. If are you following what's happening with all these government institutions against self-custody?
Fill me in, I've been barely keeping up with it. I got so much going on right now, but I know our audience is super interested in hearing more, so please fill us in.
Yeah, essentially they're going after everyone who who's in Bitcoin other than the ETFs, right? Like they attacked the Samurai wallet, who was offering, free software, open source software, and they said, okay, some people use this for money laundering, and you've been making money because of this, so now you're responsible for other people's use of your software, which was open source. Although they also had made it worse by challenging the government openly in public. So this might have been they may have turned themselves into a good target. Then they went after Roger Ver, who is hated for what he wanted to do to Bitcoin, but nevertheless, they went after him 10 years after he had reported his last tax filing, and renounced citizenship, moved to another country. But they went after him. They looked up his records. It looks like 10 years ago, he had misrepresented his wealth. So they're now arresting him for something that happened back then, and probably won't accept, a payment, and they just want to make an example of him. Why? Because he was also an outspoken libertarian-leaning person. Also, probably they feel disrespected that he renounced his citizenship. And then we also have Tornado Cash guys arrested. That's last year. We have authorities going after Robinhood for their listing of crypto. What it feels like to me is actually the enforcement against Bitcoin has gone up after the ETFs. So that makes you think that maybe after they lost the war in the ETF fight, in the ETF battle, once they lost it, and you remember Elizabeth Warren and her team were so furious about it, but Gary Gensler was like, this is the law, unfortunately we can't do anything about it. I think that they are transitioning towards making everything else impossible. So making self-custody criminal, making any kind of privacy technology a crime, making any actor who sells Bitcoin a potential money launderer or facilitator of crime. Node operation, operating your node could be thought of as money transmission. Operating a Lightning node could be a money transmission service. So once they're talking about this, and talks have the potential to become reality. So if they work on this for longer, they may pass some limiting laws, and they're already trying to do that. And our only line of defense is the other. Well, one line of defense is the other part of the government who are more respectful of freedom. But ultimately, it's us. The more effort we are willing to put behind protecting our freedom, the better we will be off. So it's really important for people to be vigilant, to understand what's going on, and essentially, speak up and limit the political ability to take our rights away. I really want to be able to self-custody my coins. That's the main value of Bitcoin. That's without it, it has just lost everything. If all my Bitcoin is in an ETF, it's not going to do anything. It's just a number on screen, and it's not going to create the positive change in the society that we want, the positive change in economy. Mm-hmm. So the only thing we have to keep that is ourselves.
Mm-hmm. It's to a point. Do you agree? It's to a point where they can't stop it. So this is just like they're like the little kid who got their ball taken away, and they're screaming and whining and pouting, and it's really like, we don't care what you say. But they've lost control of the media. They've lost control of the hearts and minds of the masses. Like everybody that I know, even members of Congress, think Gary Gensler is a rat little weasel. I mean, he facilitated the payments for the Steele dossier, right? He tried to frame a president. He was part in overthrowing a sitting president of the United States. I mean, that's treason. And so when Trump walks back down that elevator on, January 20th or 5th or whatever day he ends up, assuming his role as president of the United States, these people are all going to prison. So they get like 6 more months to whine and pout, and then we just clown world's over? Or do you think it's going to be something that's going to continue on for the next 4 years because they attempt to rig the 2024?
So as far as the genie being out of the bottle, it is, I think. Last time we talked about this, Bitcoin is an idea. You said it's like Bible, right? It's an idea in people's mind. It's something people want, and there's no way you can stop it. You can hurt it a lot, but you can't stop it. And once you've heard it a lot, then there's nothing more you can do it. So at that point, you have just proven that you couldn't kill it, and it will grow back up. Exactly matching this analysis, essentially this implies that the best course of action for the government is not to go directly after Bitcoin and call it illegal no matter what. Instead, offer some solution for people that want to gamble and they want the gains. Hey, do you want Bitcoin? Yeah, here. This is something you can use to benefit from the gains. And then don't talk about anything else. Everything else is just leave the money in my hand. You just play your games, buy the ETF and enjoy it. And I'll go after everything else. Everything else doesn't have that much support. Whenever you talk about privacy, people are like, oh, do you have anything to hide? And you have to convince people around you that this is not a matter of hiding, or it's not a matter of it's a matter of freedom, right? If somebody is able to access your information and use it against you, this is a risk. You don't see it right now, but over time, this will just give these politicians more and more power to take our freedoms away. So we have to, we have to protect our privacy. It's human right, but a lot of people don't understand it. I see on Twitter they say, "Oh, samurai wallet guys, oh, it was actually really good that they caught them. They were doing this and that." No one knows if they've committed any crime or something, but this model of going after people just for putting out open source software, this is a dangerous precedence. This can't be happening. This is not right. And this sounds like something they can go after because still the citizens are not clear about the morality or what they think about this. Do we want privacy? Do we not want privacy? We don't want to facilitate criminals laundering money. People haven't thought clearly about this, right? It looks good to give all this power and control to someone we trust, like the law enforcement. They will probably protect us against some crime, but there's a lot of negative that comes from this too. If they take away this right, they'll take away that other right and that other right. I much more prefer a solution based on the market, and not something that leaves my life in control of a person who's in power, and they're not the most trustworthy, moral people, right? So I see that as a huge risk, but no, a lot of people do not. So that's why they can implement this strategy of giving you the gains through the ETF and killing everything else. That sounds like the plan. That's what I see. I'm not saying like there was this conscious there was this one day when they gather over dinner and decided this is what we'll do, but that's the path. That's the path. They're giving us a candy and killing the goose.
You can burn as many Bibles as you want. The Bible as an idea is not going anywhere, right? It's
Yes.
totally decentralized. It's here to stay, basically. And so Bitcoin is, again, just taking that principle a step further, right? It's replicated in so many different places constantly all the time that it makes it very close to indestructible. There's a moral imperative here. It's ethical, it's technological, it's pragmatic, it's financial. I just hope that all this talking we're doing about Bitcoin is helping nudge the world in the right direction.
Yep, totally. But what I want the audience to see is we are not in this for gain. I love the gains, and that's part of it. That's a big part of it. If something doesn't grow, it probably doesn't have much economic value, right? So this is part of the game. But the main idea here is to fix some of our problems. I'm not going to say this will fix all the problems, but I truly believe that we have a lot of problems in our society because how the money works, and fixing that is a very noble goal. It's a very good cause to rally behind, and we really hope to make improvement here. At least what Bitcoin has done for us is allowed us to at least get away from this craziness, opt out and move your money into something that is not affected by all the crazy things that are happening out there. So that's one. But over time, this will also impact the traditional finance and essentially make it more and more clear to people that we don't need to give the control over money to a single person or a single group. We don't need that. The market can handle itself. We are all smart actors. If they just stay away from manipulating the system, which is inevitably corrupt, we will be able to handle it. We will be able to make the right decisions, and the economy will just keep going.
Man, Sina, this is such a great conversation. I know we're getting close to that 1 hour mark. Is there anything that you want, any topics that we didn't cover so far that you want to get across? And I want to give you a couple minutes at the end too to give a big shout out to 21st Capital and promote all your pages. So is there anything else that you wanted to dive into today? We have a little bit of time left. I'm going to give you the mic.
So I guess something that I'm personally very excited about is I'm doing a new analyses on Bitcoin. Essentially, I've been following a lot of data points. For example, what's happening in the futures market, what's happening in the options market, what's happening in on chain, and I'm trying to understand how these things are related to each other. In the next few weeks, I'll be posting out more studies on these metrics and how they work and how they can help us understand when the market is crazy and too many degens are out there, and when it's always a good time to buy Bitcoin, but there are some times that are better than others. So it's good. I mean, I don't really trade. I don't trade at all. I haven't sold any Bitcoin. Maybe except when I'm purchasing like a $10, $20 thing here and there.
Yep.
But it's always good to understand what's going on. It's always good to understand why volatility happens. So I'm doing some studies that are showing really good promises, really strong descriptions of what's going on. So I'll be putting out some of that out there. Really excited about that. Something else, I guess the biggest things that are happening is the new ETFs that opened in Hong Kong. They've been doing weak flows in the past few days, but they got really big seed funding in the beginning. So it'd be nice to see what's going on there. One of the biggest problem with Hong Kong ETFs was that China closed the mainland, closed the mainland people's access to them. But there is talk that they may allow the mainland to buy Hong Kong ETFs, and that would be the biggest news if that happens. The biggest news this part of the year, first half of the year, would be that if it happens. So something to watch.
How much capital are we talking there? With if that was allowed?
It's I don't even know. It's unbelievable numbers. Definitely, on par. I'd say at least half the amount that US ETFs got because of the particular situation that China is in. Nothing is performing well in the Chinese market. Real estate is dead. It's a zombie. The stock market has been crashing. It's not doing well at all. Their economy is not growing as fast as they hoped and they advertised. There's no recovery there. People are looking for somewhere else to go. Okay, so given that backdrop, there should be quite a bit of interest in Bitcoin, but they're not allowed, and China doesn't want capital flight. So that's going to be huge. Another thing is all these 13F filings that are coming out, all these institutions that are now having to report that they own Bitcoin ETFs, a bunch of big banks, a bunch of big institutions and hedge funds. That's going to be a very exciting trend to watch. And then all these regulatory things that are happening. This is an election year, and we should see a lot of movement from all the interest groups to at least put on a show for us in terms of telling us that they're trying to stop crime by attacking Bitcoin. And I don't think it will succeed, but it's going to be an interesting movie to watch.
It sure is, my friend. Well, tell everybody where they can find you at, man. I got your Twitter up over here. I know you're working with 21st Capital as well. I want you to tell us a little bit about 21st Capital. I see you got bitguide.io over in your profile. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on here.
Yeah, but BitGuide was an educational platform we built a while back. We're putting out videos and courses that talk about certain concepts, economy, self-custody, things like that. But we are kind of evolving that, or maybe making it part of 21st Capital right now, which is focused on right now consulting, and we're also developing our own infrastructure for custody. What we do with consulting, actually now, last time we spoke, we had just started and we didn't have any kind of external validation. We got really good reviews on Trustpilot on some of the efforts we've done since then. For example, after the Samurai Wallet guys were arrested and a lot of people had funds stuck, our team just put out a free service that recovered, that helped people recover the funds and fix any issue that can happen with Samurai Wallet. And that's one. We've also, again, helped several people get on board, have a safe, establish a safe setup and secure setup for holding their Bitcoin. And like I said, we're also expanding our work, and there are many exciting things that are happening, which I'm not allowed to share right now, but we will announce in a few days, or weeks, actually. But if you're listening to this, you're interested in Bitcoin, contact us. It's a free session. Talk to us about anything you like. If you want to just learn about something, you've got a question about technology, about the market, about how to custody, what are the different solutions, your specific needs, we're there for you. And we have an amazing team. Some of the people on our team are like hardcore developers, Bitcoin developers. A few of them are community builders that have been educating folks in this field for years. So definitely make use of that service, and we are happy to talk to you. And again, it's all free.
Man, SINA, you guys are doing a great service for the world, man. I greatly appreciate it. And I absolutely am a huge fan of whoever you guys hired to do your website. This thing's so professional. It's so clean. I always admire the work that goes into putting together sites like this and the content that you guys are creating. So you guys are doing a fantastic job, man. And I appreciate you coming on the show, and hopefully you'll come back in a couple of weeks or next month, whenever you get time.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. Today we had a lot of rants, but that's the cool things. I'm a lot more interested in talking about, how Bitcoin impacts our world. And thanks a lot for the great chat today.
No, man, you do make my job easy. As an interviewer, it's my job to keep the guests talking as long as possible. So the more that you talk, I feel like the better job I'm doing, man, and you make it easy for me. So I love hearing what you have to say, and you add so much value that it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
God bless you guys. And do us a huge favor, guys. If you guys want to support our sponsors over here on the Ryan Matta Show, you guys can go to mypillow.com. Mypillow.com/Matta will get you 65% off everything store-wide. If you are in the USA, you can check out our sponsors down below in the description. If you guys want to get some free Bitcoin, you guys can use my affiliate codes over on COINBASE. If you guys are outside the USA, you can check out Bybit. Today's sponsor is Bybit. Bybit is your one-stop shop for crypto trading, crypto investing, buying, learning. I've also built a step-by-step digital course. And I won't bore you with the rest, but you guys get it. Affiliate links are down below. Smash that like button on your way out the show. God bless you guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Run.